And so for my report for my matchups. So the event was 2 days. The first day was 7 rounds, and it was best of 1. 25 minutes long as well. And so round 1, I faced Gears, Jet, Time Leap. And I was a little behind at first because I was stuck in grade 0 for a turn. I have no idea why, because I run like 14 grade 1s. But Vanguard is Vanguard. But I was able to come back on the second stride and still take the win for that round. So that was good and scary. Second round, I faced Token Granblue, and it was actually my friend Jamal. We're like, oh shit, we're facing each other right away. We would rather face our friends at the end, you know, fighting for the championship than, you know, freaking like first round or 2. That always sucks, you know. Like one of us is gonna lose, and that's gonna like hurt us if we lose, that kind of thing. But yeah, we were playing it out. I did early game, I rushed in, and I even got a crit in as well. And unfortunately, he was telling me he was drawing grade 3, so he couldn't really like rush back. So as soon as he rolled to grade 2, that was it. He couldn't like call more grade 2s. And then once we got to like grade 3 and I first strode, I used Obadiah because like I need combo pieces and I can generate 5 attacks with Obadiah with these combo pieces that I need to get, and then I just went from that kind of thing. Didn't have enough hand because he had to call grade 3s and that kind of thing, so it kind of sucks for him. But yeah, and that's how that second round ended. Third round, I faced Nightrose, the mirror match. He had Peter as a starter, and he milled kind of I don't remember. It wasn't nothing important, so it was we were back and forth, and then one of his turns, he actually misplayed with a King Serpent. And I was reading the card just now, and I was like, oh, that's a mandatory effect, you know? And he just forgot to, like, counter charge, but he soul charged. And I guess we went farther in his turn, just forgot about it, and he's just like, fuck, I forgot about that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And from there, he was just like, well, I can't generate more attacks, so I'm gonna do this. And then when he did the Negerbone King Serpent attack and killed it, he was debating what to bring back, and he was trying to bring back a Negerbone, which you can't, and I told him you can't. And I think from that pressure that, you know, that's the second time messing up, that he tried calling the mech, and he accidentally called the mech over his Negerbone. And that's in the back row, so it's not like he's getting another attack or that kind of thing, or if he, you know, rips the stand, he could send the Negerbone and give it power to make it a 16 column and then generate another attack that way. But at this point, I guess he was just messing up. So I don't blame him. It sucks when you start messing up and then you can't really come back from it too. And then because of that misplay, I just come back next turn with a Nightrose turn and just beat him that way. So round 4 was Gurguit. I was rushing really good early on, and I even got a crit in. This guy was like 4 or 5 damage, and before we rode to grade 3, and he was healing on his drive check, so he healed when he rode to grade 3. I was like, okay, that puts him back in the game. And then we went back and forth, and I kept the Cannoneer on board because, you know, if he decides to make a combo play, or if he decides to make big columns with the Gurgurt stride, I can just get rid of it easily, that kind of thing. And also, what else? He healed 2 more times on his strike turns. Like, he drove checked the heal, so I couldn't, like, you know, finish him off. So I was like, what the heck? So it got to the point where both our decks were such a small size because he was using Glorious Raining and he was like calling stuff throughout the game, and then of course me, Granblue, that kind of thing. It got to the point where I had to decide if I could stride or not, and I decided not to stride. And I only had 1 card in deck, which was a Bale, because, you know, I shoved it back in the bottom deck because of its effect. I called Field with Mick involved, and I was able to get 2 Micks. No, I had 1 Mick, made a lazy, a 21 column, and I was able to get that back into the deck. So I had 2 cards. Then I had a Negerbone, and I called the Bale from my hand. And that way I got Bale, the second one, back into deck. So I have 3 cards. I do Twin Drive. I'm going to hit a stand because I know one of them was a Bale at the bottom, so one of them has to be a stand. And I restand the Negerlazy at 21 and give it power to like Negerrook or something that I brought back with Negerbone, and boom, I just won from there. It was really tense. My friend was like, it was like that moment when you're playing The Legend of Zelda and you're Link and you're like on that 1, 2, 3 hearts, and it makes that noise, beep 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 beep. You know, it felt like that kind of moment, kind of thing. You don't want to fuck up because you just like die. So the next round was against Nightrose, and this time was against Funk Doctor. If you guys know him from the subreddit, he also mained Peter. I think he milled pretty good that game. I can't remember. But yeah, for him and I, we were back and forth. And of course, he actually got the first gouge, first stride, because, you know, Peter, and then seeing like 2 crits early on, that was like a lot of stall. And so we went back and forth, but I was still like fine, you know. So one turn, he left a Cannoneer and a Necrobone on board. Of course, he had a heal trigger, I'm assuming. And so I was like, okay, I need to get rid of the Cannoneer before I go into my battle phase. And so what I did during my main phase, I called my Cannoneer and killed his Necrobone. Nightrose's GB2 skill is once per turn. So if she sees a rear guard die, it procs at that moment, and you decide to use it or not. And if you don't, that's it. You can't use it anymore. It's like Tidal Assault kind of thing. So I did that, and then I went to proceed to do my multiple attacks. And he tried a G-guard, and he's like, you know what, I don't think I can even do the Cannoneer play. And I'm like, no, you can't, because it's once per turn. And he's like, true. And so that got me through that turn. And then he went to his turn, and he went into a Nightrose stride. And we got into another weird situation where basically he had a Rampage Shade in the back. He's on the Nightrose stride. And on attack, he shoved the Rampage into Soul, forgot to draw, resolved Nightrose's effect to bring back 2 units, and proceed to triple drive. And he brought it up that he forgot to draw. And I'm like, well, is it mandatory or not? And I was like, we read the card and like, yeah, it's mandatory. Let's get a judge. So after talking to some judges, one of them was my friend Bryce, which was, you know, he's a pretty good judge throughout the events that I play at. So we brought another judge that we don't know, and she got into basically saying that shelve those 3 drove check cards because they're public knowledge now, and then shuffle your deck and then redo it. And I was like, I don't think we have to do that. I think we can just, you know, it's a reversible game state where you basically say the first card doesn't count as the drive check, it's just your draw for Rampage. Nothing influenced the deck to probably change that drive check. And then you would just, you know, check the top card, you know, and that would be the 3rd drive check instead of like, you know, his, you know, damage or next turn draw or whatever. So, and we got the head judge involved, and he actually agreed with us, and he sorted that out. And it was important too, because he drove check non-triggers, and I'm like, well, if he shovels them back and gets like triggers, it could cost me the game for his misplay. But so me and Funk Doctor were just like talking, like, does that make sense? He's like, yeah, that makes sense. This should be just reversed, you know. I should just have this card instead of my first check should be my draw, and then drive check another card, and that will be it. And I'm like, yeah. So that's how we decided it, and that was good sportsmanship on him too, so that we worked something out, and we got the judges involved, and they were good about it too. So that worked out. So I just wanted to mention that because I know people always hate on judges. So this is the one time that actually things worked out correctly for us players that we think that it should. So kudos to those guys. So because of that, there were 5k shields. So I already knew that next turn I was just gonna go Nightrose grade 4 and then just like generate a bunch of attacks, and he couldn't guard everything, and that's how I won. So round 6 was Gears Jet Time Leap. I had a really good early game. I even got a crit in, and when I critted him, a Orwatar and a Gear Cat went to the damage zone. It was like things were falling into place. I lived his next turn because he got the first stride, and then when it came to me for my first stride, I couldn't stride because 2 grade 1s and the rest were grade 0s. In fact, one of them was a Grenache because he column bombed them, and I ended up drawing it. Like, damn, that sucks. And because of that, I fell behind, and he just pretty much got back in the game and beat me. So I lost that, and that was my first loss. You know, I went 5-0 undefeated the first 5 rounds, and then I just lost. This is my first one. I was like, damn. So 7th round was against Brave. This one sucked too. I was grade stuck on 2 for 4 to 5 turns, failing G assist all those times. And then the only thing keeping me in the game was that I was drive checking heals, and then of course I can use that as 10k shields. And then, of course, I was also denying him CB because it's Brave, and you don't want to give him more CB. You rather get rid of his rear guard, so that way he keeps calling cards from hand to field, you know. And it was kind of effective because, like, he's calling all these grade 2s, and ideally that deck wants to call them during the battle phase. So once they're, like, coming out of the deck, he can only call so many in the later game. So that was not bad. But the problem was, once I strode, I had a G assist, and then I think I had to use 2 cards to stride or something. And I tried to gouge, and my advantage wasn't enough to keep up to live the next turn, and I just, like, lose to that. I was pretty bummed out about that. But I guess it happens because of 5 grade 3s. So I was like, ugh, this sucks. Hope this doesn't happen in day 2. And then day 2 was 3 rounds. It was Swiss more. 8 round. The 8th round was the mirror match, Nightrose again. He also main Peter. He got mill on game 1. I had a G assist and stride, and then we went back and forth. It was good, and I had fun. He had fun, I can tell. And then he gets me via Nightrose because, you know, I needed like an extra 5k more shield to live that turn. And literally, the game 2 went the same route because I had a G assist as well, and then back and forth, and eventually, again, I needed like 5 or 10k more shield to like live and proceed to my turn. And I think if I didn't have the G assist, then that would have been like the extra 5, 10k shield or more that could have been dealt with, you know, that kind of thing. So I was just reflecting on that, like maybe I really do need to push my grade 3 count to 6 instead of 5, you know. This is actually hurting me in matchups like this. Like, yeah, I can recover, but if in the mare, it's the same type of deck, but I'm now at a disadvantage, so I have to like bump that up. We also discussed how typically the mare goes, and then apparently we felt like it's the one who manages the CB the most effectively. Yeah, hand advantage plays a role, but if you don't have any counterblast after the next turn or something like that, Granblue can't do really much, especially in Nightrose. 7Cs has the break right at least that can potentially call units, and even on flip, they call a King Serpent and go off. But Nightrose needs counterblast to even do anything, and so you're only saving grace at that point is the PG. So those are the things we, you know, discovered as playtesting and actually during the event. So the 9th round, my opponent dropped, so I just ate food and watched my friend Andy play. And then 10th round 10 was basically against Brave again. This time I won game 1. I made him drop more cards throughout the games from the very beginning. That way, you know, sure, it triggers Brave, but seriously, like 4 or 5 cards in hand. And I got multi-attack on my strike turns, I'm gonna go ham. So that's how that ended. And then game 2, I didn't have enough shield on his shenanigans turn, you know, call these grade 2s during the battle phase and have like decent power up, so they're actually hitting good numbers. And then game 3, because I didn't PG while I was at 3 damage, I got triple kitted out of the game. That freaking sucked. I talked to him a little after that, and I asked him like if I was playing the early game right, where I was actually attacking his rear guards and making him call cards from hand to keep up, otherwise he will like fall behind in damage as well. He said that was the right way. You don't want to give him counterblast in the beginning, and he still has rear guards to keep poking you and that kind of thing. So he thought that was the right way to play, and which is good because, you know, I haven't faced Brave until like the event. And then the other thing was that he was telling me he was playing freaking 12 crit. I'm like, holy crap. And I was just like, yeah, you know, really hindsight, my misplay was not PG in that turn. I had a PG and I had 2 heals, so I was good. It's just that I was being, I guess, conservative with my hand. I really don't want to waste. I'd rather take a Vanguard attack, but I mean, it's Royals. They're playing good amount of crits, and they deck thing like crazy because they're always calling their grade 2s, and then a few of them the great ones, like Sanctuary Guard. So that was my fault, and so because of that, I think that's X4, yeah. But like a lot of these things were like I felt because the G assist hurt me, because I couldn't stride, and then that very last round I lost because I didn't PG against a Royals Vanguard, which is important. And so from that I gathered that I need to add another grade 3, so hopefully I can ride a grade 3 without G assisting. Probably taking out poker because I'm sure there's a way I can play against Lean Joker without it. I just have to play test with the new stuff and see how that, you know, comes about. And I think the deck is strong, but it is detrimental if I misplay, but that's Granblue, usually. If you misplay by saying you're using your counterblast, or you call the wrong unit, and now you're just kind of in a weird setup, and you can't do anything, and then you start calling stuff from hand, and that's when it goes downhill, because you want to keep your hand and call from drop like throughout the turns. It's okay maybe if you call one card from hand throughout those turns, but you'd rather not. You'd rather call stuff, everything from the drop, and then they go back to the drop, so you can reuse it next turn. So going to play for the new stuff, and I think this is what I'll be using for Philly as well. Nightrose, I just like Granblue's powerful mechanic of bringing back units. I think that's really good. So if you have one card in hand and it's like the Stride Fodder or the Grade 3, you can stride and then just come back out of nowhere. So, and that was the other thing we discussed about the mirror match, was that it may not matter what hand size you have, because seriously, like, you can be losing and you just stride and then just generate all these attacks or these big columns or something, and you just come back and could win the matchup. It's kind of crazy. So again, it's the counterblast management that I think is more important, and so that's why even more I'm playing him as the starter, for the consistency of seeing him throughout my games, instead of trying to like fetch him out with Obadiah or pray that I see him and that kind of thing. So that's it, guys. That was my deck profile and my report, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and see you next time. Subscribe, like, comment, and share, and check out the deck profile. Not deck profile. Check out my other deck profiles and combo videos if you guys are curious about other decks that I play, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.